Ladies and gentlemen, we often believe that it takes massive action to transform our lives. But the truth is far more empowering. It's the small habits, done consistently, that shape who we become. Think about it. A single drop of water may seem insignificant, but over time, it can carve through rock. That's the power of consistency with small habits. The real secret to success, health, happiness, and personal growth lies in the little things we do daily. Not the once in a lifetime breakthroughs, but the quiet, repeated actions we choose each morning. Want to be more productive? Start your day with 10 minutes of planning. Want to be healthier? Drink a glass of water before every meal. Want to be happier? Write down 3 things you're grateful for. The best part, small habits are easy to start. They don't require a major lifestyle change or hours of your day, but when you add them up, day after day, they compound into massive results. So instead of chasing perfection or waiting for motivation, focus on building tiny rituals. Whether it's reading 1 page a day, walking for 15 minutes, or putting your phone away during meals, these micro changes will shape your future. Because in the end, success is not one giant leap. It's the result of thousands of small, smart choices, repeated consistently. Start small, stay consistent, and change your life forever. When people think about changing their lives, they often imagine making huge, sweeping transformations, quitting their job, moving to a new city, or launching a big business. But the real, lasting change doesn't usually come from big, dramatic decisions. It comes from the small, seemingly ordinary actions that we repeat daily. These habits, while easy to overlook, carry an incredible compounding effect, just like interest in a bank account. Think of it like this. If you improve by just 1% each day, it might not look like much at first. But over the course of a year, those tiny improvements add up. The math shows that you won't just be 365% better. You'll be over 37 times better than when you started. That's the magic of compound growth, and it applies to your habits just as much as it does to money. For example, waking up 15 minutes earlier to stretch, meditate, or journal might feel trivial today. But over time, that small shift creates mental clarity, emotional stability, and a calmer mindset to start your day. Drinking an extra glass of water may not seem like a game changer, but do it daily, and your energy improves, your skin clears up, and your body feels more alive. Reading a page a day might not make you a scholar overnight, but after a year, you've completed multiple books, grown your knowledge, and developed a powerful habit of learning. The compounding power of small habits is often invisible at first. It's easy to give up because we don't see immediate results. But just like a seed planted in the soil, growth happens underground before it ever breaks the surface. You must trust the process. When you stick with these small habits consistently, you'll suddenly look back one day and realize how far you've come, not because of one big move, but because of the hundreds of tiny, intentional steps you took along the way. These microactions don't just change what you do, they reshape your future. One positive habit leads to another. One small win builds momentum, and that momentum becomes unstoppable over time. Success is not reserved for the lucky or the gifted. It belongs to those who understand the value of small, steady progress repeated over time. There's a powerful truth that many people overlook in their pursuit of success. It's not the massive effort you put in once in a while that transforms your life. It's the small effort you put in every single day. Intensity, though flashy and dramatic, is often short-lived. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet, patient, and persistent, and it's what actually drives long-term change. Think about a person who starts running for the first time. They sprint 5 miles on day 1, push themselves to exhaustion, and feel accomplished. but then they're sore for days, overwhelmed, and unmotivated to run again. Compare that with someone who starts with just 1 mile a day, every day, even at a slow pace. After a month, the first person has given up, while the second person is fitter, more energetic, and building momentum. The difference isn't talent or strength, it's consistency. This principle applies to every area of life: relationships, fitness, career, learning, self, growth, even mental health. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to be extraordinary. But you do need to be consistent. One compliment a day can heal a relationship. One page of reading a night can expand your mind. One journal entry every morning can strengthen your mindset. The problem is, people often underestimate the value of small, repetitive actions because they don't give instant gratification. They want results now. They want to feel like they're changing everything overnight. But the truth is, real progress is invisible at first. When you're consistent, nothing seems to change for a while. You do the same thing, day in and day out, with no visible reward. And that's where most people give up. They think it's not working. They get bored. But what they don't realize is that the results are stacking up in the background, slowly, silently, building a foundation that will one day erupt into undeniable progress. Consistency also brings structure and clarity. When you show up every day for yourself, even in a small way, you create a sense of direction. Your brain starts to associate certain actions with identity. The more you write, the more you see yourself as a writer. The more you save, the more you see yourself as financially responsible. The more you speak kindly to yourself, the more your confidence grows. This shift in identity doesn't come from one grand act. It comes from repeatedly choosing who you want to become and proving it to yourself through consistent behavior. Consistency builds habits. It rewires your brain. It strengthens your ability to focus, commit, and follow through. It turns hard things into easy ones because with enough repetition, what once felt like effort becomes automatic. Discipline becomes second nature. Excellence becomes your baseline, and as you maintain that rhythm, the gap between you and who you used to be starts to widen. This is why intensity, although tempting and emotionally satisfying, often fades. It burns bright, but it burns out. Consistency, on the other hand, is like a slow, burning fire. It may not dazzle at first, but it keeps you warm and steady through the long haul. When people set out to improve their lives, the first mistake they often make is trying to change too much, too fast. They dive headfirst into extreme routines early way. Cups, long workouts, strict diets, overwhelming to-do lists, believing that the more they do at once, the quicker they'll see results. But what happens next is predictable. They get tired, frustrated, overwhelmed, and eventually give up. Why? Because their approach was never sustainable. The real secret to lasting change is to start simple, not grand, not perfect, just small and simple, because simplicity is powerful. It removes friction. It reduces resistance, and most importantly, it helps you stay consistent without feeling like you're fighting against yourself. Let's take an example. If you want to develop a reading habit, you don't need to read 50 pages a day right from the beginning. That sounds productive, but it's also exhausting. Instead, start with one page, just one. The goal isn't the number of pages, the goal is to create the identity of someone who reads every day. Over time, that one page naturally turns into 5, then 10, and eventually a lifelong love of reading. And it all started with a simple step. Starting simple gives you the chance to build confidence and rhythm. Each small action becomes a tiny win, and those wins stack up. They give you the motivation to keep going because you're seeing yourself succeed, even if it's just a little bit each day. That sense of progress, however small, is crucial. It builds momentum, and momentum fuels habit formation. Another key advantage of starting simple is that it prevents decision fatigue. The more complex a habit is, the more mental energy it takes to stick with it. If a routine feels like a burden, your brain will try to avoid it. But when the task is so small and easy, that one of the most profound truths about human behavior is this: you become what you repeatedly do. Your daily habits are not just actions you perform. They are powerful signals to your subconscious mind, reinforcing the type of person you believe yourself to be. Every small decision, every repeated behavior, every habit, whether positive or negative, is a vote cast for the identity you're creating. People often set goals like "I want to lose weight" or "I want to be more productive," but those are outcomes, not identities. The real transformation happens when you stop focusing on what you want to achieve and start focusing on who you want to become. Instead of saying, "I want to write a book," say, "I am a writer." Instead of saying, "I want to run a marathon," say, "I am a runner." These subtle shifts in identity reframe the way you approach your actions, and what reinforces this new identity? Habits. Each time you perform a habit, even a small one, you're telling your brain, "This is who I am." When you wake up early and meditate, you're not just practicing mindfulness, you're becoming a person who prioritizes peace. When you drink water instead of soda, you're not just making a health choice, you're becoming someone who takes care of their body. These repeated behaviors layer upon each other like bricks, slowly but surely constructing the foundation of your self-image. Identity-based change is far more powerful than outcome-based change because it's deep-rooted. Outcomes are external. Identity is internal. When your actions align with your desired identity, they feel natural. You're not forcing yourself to do something. You're simply expressing who you are. That's why lasting change is not about willpower. It's about alignment. It's about designing habits that reflect the person you want to be, and it works both ways. If you constantly procrastinate, your identity becomes "I'm someone who can't focus." If you give up easily, you start to believe "I'm someone who lacks discipline." Negative habits send just as strong a message as positive ones. That's why awareness is key. Every time you make a choice, you're casting a vote, either reinforcing your old self or stepping into your future self. What's powerful is that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Even small, repeated actions are enough to change how you see yourself. One workout doesn't make you fit, but working out every day for 5 minutes builds the identity of someone who values health. You don't have to journal for an hour. Just one sentence a day confirms, "I am someone who reflects and grows." Ultimately, your habits are the mirror of your identity. They show you, and the world, who you really are, not who you say you are, but who you consistently prove yourself to be through your daily routines. One of the most underestimated strengths of small habits is how effortless they are to begin. When people think about improving their life, they often imagine it will take massive amounts of time, energy, or money. That perception becomes a major mental barrier. The mind resists because the task seems too big, too complicated, or too far from current reality. That's why so many people procrastinate or never even begin. But small habits break through that wall. They offer an easy, approachable entry point, a gentle first step that lowers resistance and allows momentum to take over. Minimal effort doesn't mean minimal impact. In fact, the simplicity of small habits is what makes them so powerful. Because they don't demand too much, they eliminate the most common excuse, "I don't have time," or "I'm too tired." You don't need to carve out hours from your busy schedule or overhaul your entire lifestyle just to get started. 5 minutes of stretching, 1 paragraph of writing, 2 minutes of deep breathing. These things barely register on your daily energy scale, yet they carry the potential to set massive change in motion. The psychological advantage of small, low-effort habits is significant. When a habit is easy, it doesn't trigger fear, doubt, or resistance. There's no pressure to be perfect, no guilt if you're not doing enough, and no expectation of immediate results. That creates a safe space for your brain to operate. Your subconscious feels comfortable stepping into the behavior without putting up a fight, and once you start, that first step often leads to the next. What began as a 2-minute task sometimes turns into a 10-minute session because momentum kicks in naturally. This is why behavior change experts often recommend using what's called the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. This rule isn't about the task itself. It's about building the habit muscle. It's about showing up. Showing up daily, even in the smallest way, builds consistency, and consistency builds identity. Whether it's putting on your gym clothes, writing a single sentence, or meditating for 1 minute, the goal is not to do it all at once. The goal is to begin, and beginning becomes easier when effort is minimal. Moreover, small habits that require minimal effort are sustainable long-term. You're far less likely to burn out, skip days, or give up altogether because they fit so easily into your life. They don't disrupt your routine, they blend into it. That makes them ideal for people with busy lives, unpredictable schedules, or low motivation. You can stack them onto existing routines, like flossing right after brushing your teeth or journaling before turning off the lights at night. These easy-to-start habits also create a sense of accomplishment. Checking something off your list, no matter how small, gives your brain a dopamine boost. That little shot of reward reinforces the behavior and makes you want to do it again. Day by day, these micro-victories accumulate and form the foundation of greater habits. They lay the groundwork for more complex routines, deeper focus, and larger goals, without ever feeling overwhelming at the start. The brilliance of low-effort habits is that they remove excuses. They eliminate the all-or-nothing mindset that so many people get trapped in. You don't have to wait until conditions are perfect, until you have more time, or until you're in the mood. Because when something takes such little effort, there's never a reason not to do it. Discipline is often viewed as something grueling, something that requires harsh self-control and the ability to push through discomfort over and over again. But in truth, discipline doesn't have to be painful. It can be built gradually, quietly, and gently through small daily habits. And this is one of the greatest gifts that small habits offer. They help you develop deep inner discipline without ever overwhelming your mind or body. When most people try to develop discipline, they go too hard too soon. They try to wake up at 4 a.m., cut out all sugar, start working out 7 days a week, or study for hours at a time. These extreme efforts might work for a few days, but eventually they trigger exhaustion and mental resistance. You burn out, you snap, and then you feel like a failure for not being disciplined enough. This approach actually damages your self-trust and reinforces the belief that you're not cut out for long-term change. Small habits take a completely different path. They introduce discipline in a gentle and sustainable way. Because the action is small, the demand on your willpower is low. You don't need to force yourself, you just do it. And in that tiny, consistent act, you begin to build the most powerful form of discipline, the kind that's automatic. Let's say you decide to meditate for just 2 minutes a day. At first, it might feel so easy that it doesn't even count. But that's the point. You're not just meditating. You're training your brain to follow through. You're proving to yourself that you can commit. And every day that you sit down for those 2 minutes, your mental muscles grow stronger. Soon, You no longer question whether you'll do it. You just do it. That's discipline, and it came without stress, pressure, or exhaustion. This type of low friction repetition creates emotional safety around your habits. Because there's no fear of failure, you begin to approach new challenges with more confidence. You know you can stick to something because you've done it before, even if it was small. That belief becomes a quiet strength. It builds resilience. It makes you more willing to take on harder tasks when the time comes, because your baseline of discipline is already established. Small habits also teach you the power of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline isn't about being in the mood, it's about following through regardless of mood. And because these habits are so manageable, you learn to push past excuses without needing a big burst of motivation. You train your mind to take action, not just think about action. And what's more powerful is that this kind of discipline doesn't stay limited to the habit you're building. It spills over into every area of your life. If you can commit to a 5-minute morning routine every day, you start believing that you can also stick to your deadlines, honor your promises, follow a healthy lifestyle, and manage your time better. The discipline becomes part of who you are, and you begin to carry that mindset into everything you do. By starting with something simple, you create a foundation of trust between your current self and your future self. You show that you can be relied on, that your words match your actions, that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it, even if it's something small, and that internal integrity is the core of real discipline. Momentum is one of the most underestimated forces in personal development. Once you've built it, even the smallest efforts begin to generate noticeable results. You stop feeling like you're constantly starting over. Instead, you're being pulled forward by a quiet inner current. That's the beauty of small habits. They're the spark that ignites that momentum, and once it starts rolling, it becomes your greatest ally. At first, momentum might feel invisible. You're doing tiny tasks, writing 1 paragraph a day, drinking an extra glass of water, stretching for 5 minutes, and it seems like nothing's changing. But what you're really doing is stacking consistency, and consistency creates a rhythm. That rhythm turns into flow, and flow leads to motion. You begin to shift from trying to change your life to actually living the change, naturally and effortlessly. This is where momentum starts doing the heavy lifting. You no longer have to convince yourself to do the work. The habit becomes a part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone. It's not something you debate anymore, it just fits. That's the magic. Instead of constantly pushing yourself uphill, your own progress starts to push you forward. Momentum also builds confidence. When you look back and see that you've taken action every single day, even in a small way, you begin to feel powerful. You develop evidence-based self-belief. It's not fake motivation or wishful thinking. It's grounded in real behavior. You've shown up, you've made progress, you've honored your word. That growing belief reigns.